All right, so this is the tray portion of the component holder. So basically you start with the bottom and you get two of the side walls here. So these have a longer notch out here, which is intentional. It'll key into the top of the component holder later. But you're basically going to glue, trying to avoid these center sections here as much as possible. So there's a slight inset right here that you can barely see, but it's a couple thousandths just allowed to clear when you insert it in there. But glue there, there, in this valley, there, and there. You're going to want to pop this in. And this one's a little looser than some fit tight, some are slightly less tight. That's why you want glue. Same thing on the other side. And then once you get those in there, oh, that one is really loose, but that's why it'll glue. Once you get that in, do the front and back walls, which are these guys. They're the same, so no issues there getting the right one. Pop it all together, and those ones fit a little tighter, so it'll hold everything right now. So again, glue the valleys. And make sure everything is lined up and squeeze it all together. So that's the tray.
Job 3.
So this is the dumpster portion of the component holder. This is one of the pieces that actually gets used during the gameplay. So you have the front and the back wall, you have the two side walls, and you have the bottom. So you want to make sure all the vector etching is on the outside of the dumpster when you're putting it together, including these little circles on the bottom of the base. We'll want to have those on the bottom. And what those are is indicators on where to put the little felt pads for when it should be for this component in the set that you got. So again, we'll flip that on the bottom, take one of the back wall pieces, again with the vector etch on the outside, put glue in the valleys, and we'll want to pop that thing together. And then we'll go and take one of the side walls, glue in all the valleys, and sometimes it helps to kind of line it up with one side, and then you can kind of zip it along. And we'll flip it over and do the other side wall, same deal. Glue in the valleys, put that in there, get it lined up, and then you can kind of squeeze everything together. Flip it on its end and do the other for the front wall, since we're calling that one the back wall. So it helps to get it kind of in a corner. And sometimes you got to flex the pieces a little bit, make sure they're all lined up before you really push them together. But once you do, it all goes. And there's the dumpster. And again, you want to put the felt pads on the bottom, whereas it as indicated by the little circles. Okay, so this is the actual component holder piece. So we're going to start with the right back wall and use the inside top piece here as the first ones that go in. So you're going to put glue in the valleys of the inside top piece, and you're going to insert that into the slots in this top right, or the right back wall. And so just kind of line it up. Once you get it lined up, you can squeeze it together, kind of wiggle it in. So that was good. And then we're going to take the right inside wall, and again, you're going to put the glue in the valleys on this piece here. And this one is going to, you want to line it up. So these pieces can get a little bit cockeyed a little bit. You want to make sure at 90 degrees before you push anything together. So kind of get it lined up on the first ones, and then just maneuver the second one until you see it's lining up, and then it really just snaps all together. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take this long base here. So this is the floor piece. We set that down like this, and you want to put glue on these valleys here on the bottom of the sub-assembly we just put together. And then this is going to line up with these notches here. So you have two notches on the back wall and two notches on this right inner wall. Those are going to line up right there and right. Oops, just make sure they line up. Okay, so it's popped in. So just like that. And then we're going to take the right wall And with the logo up in the corner, this is going to basically go in. And again, always the glue in the valleys as we're going along. So this one we need to be a little bit careful with this piece right here. It's one of the thinner components in this, so you don't want to bear up on this and potentially break that off. You want to make sure everything's lined up properly with that. So get those in there. When you're popping this in there, you can kind of squeeze the whole block here together to really line those ones up. And then you don't want to be pushing on this way. You want to squeeze it like this to really get that set in there nice and snug. And it's important to get all these pieces as snug as you can, just to make sure that the drawer fits nice and even as it's sliding in and out. Oh, this one could use some glue. Okay. So the next piece we're going to put in is the top right piece. So this one is pretty critical in terms of the orientation of it. So we're going to want these 2 notches here, the side that's only got 2 notches rather than the 3, along the back edge of this right here. So these 3 notches are going to line up with these 3, and then these 2 and these 2 will line up with these 2 and these 2. So again, glue in the valleys on all this piece up top. And you want to kind of line it up. Everything should just snap right together. And you want to be cleaning up any excess glue as you go along. We like to use Q-tips on the inside to kind of sweep it out at the corners, and then just kind of wipe it away from the top pieces where it squeegees out. So the next one is going to be one of the left wall pieces, and that's just going to go into these. So again, glue in the valleys, line it up, pop together, make sure it's nice and in there. And then we're going to be doing the front wall. So if you tilt this all like this long piece here is the front wall. So this one can be a little bit tricky. You want to really line it up. So then kind of, if you line up one side and then kind of zip it along, again, as usual, glue in all the valleys before we do this. So if you get it started over here, you've got the little bit of maneuvering over here. You want to make sure that these slots are lined up with the little notches on the mating part there before you push anything together. Make sure that everything's nice and snug. Okay. And then we're going to do the back wall piece. So if you flip the whole thing over, the back wall is very similar to the other one, except it doesn't have the piece that extends across. It's going to go into these notches here, and then make sure it's lined up on the bottom, and then maneuver that side just right across. And then the final piece for the main portion of this is this second back, or the second left wall here. So similar to all the others, glue in the valleys all the way around this thing. And you gotta put it together just like that, snap it all together, and make sure it's all nice and snug. And then flip it down. These little notches are intentional. Those are gonna retain the tray that goes in this thing. We can show how that all goes together in just a second. And then the last portion is using these little components here. These are the board holder for the component tray, what we're calling this, component insert. So these ones, we're going to start by taking this guy, and we're going to actually insert this into the notches on this piece here. Again, glue in the valleys of this guy. So it's going to overhang a little bit on one side. And then what we're going to do is actually flip this over. And these 2 pieces are the same piece, so there's no issue on getting the right one. But we're going to slide that, again, glue right there, and maybe on the tops of this here. Slide that together right like this. And then on this one, do the same thing. Just slides together like that. And then this whole sub-assembly is just going to basically pop into these notches here. So you've got the 2 in the back, you've got the 2 inner notches this way, and the 2 inner notches this way. So that's going to go together just like this. So make sure everything's nice and snug. So then that becomes the tray for the board, and it retains the board from sliding this way and matches the height of the card holder in the previous. And then like we were talking about with these notches here, this is the tray that was built in a different video. That's just gonna flop right on there, and it's retained there. And the dumpster will actually slide right into there. The dumpster's got the little push-out window in the back, and then the floor is missing on this intentionally, and talked about it a little bit, but that's what these little felt pads are for here. So we have the circles on the dumpster. So little felt pads, we're gonna really wanna line those up as close as you can to the spot that's indicated by the little circle. Get all four of those lined up on the circles. And the reason that's critical to get those lined up on the circles is they're now going to clear this channel in the bottom of this thing. So you can see it if I hold it this way. So it interfaces in there, and that allows you to not basically lift the board set off by having the felt pads on this. So take that out, nice and clean.